Look at that. I didn't even get one of those. Yours is confidential. See it? Wow.
Let's test.
Public comments tonight. Don't see a lot of public out there to comment, so I guess we don't. We'll move right along to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. We'll start with consideration of approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Next is approval of the minutes of the August 15th and 20th meetings.
I would like to make a correction. I need
Okay.
to make that they are all owners, the Sandvigs, all 4 of them are owners in that. I misunderstood how that was set up, so I will make that correction to the minutes. I need to word that so they are all owners of that. I think I had it in there that it was just Dennis and his wife, I believe, is how I had that phrase.
It said something about them since they, it says they actually own the meeting.
Yeah, so I don't know, I mean...
All 4 of them own it. You're right.
Okay,
I think it
so...
was just, I think the impression was that just since all 4 had ownership stake, all 4 should be on the application.
Correct. So I will make that correction and make it right, so that was one thing.
So move with correction.
Second.
Any other discussion on the minutes? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Next is consideration of the approval of the consent calendar. Any questions on the consent calendar?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Next is business of the mayor. One item tonight, I want to appoint Emily Garden to replace Keisha Cunnings on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Keisha had a hard time with the meeting time and was difficult for her to make that time since they don't have a regular meeting time. They kind of meet as needed. Emily was more than excited to be a member of this commission, so I think she will be a good person on this commission, and I would put her name up for appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I think Emily has a lot of her mother in her, so I'd make that motion.
Second.
Clerk, any further discussion?
Keith, nothing?
No rebuttal from the end of the
Okay,
table?
I was just gonna
He
say.
abstains.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Good. Well, Emily, like I say, is very excited to be on that commission. I think she'll be a really good
Good.
member, so.
That's good.
Next is consideration of Resolution 140-18 approving the award of CDBG grant for owner-occupied housing rehab. Discussion.
As you guys are all aware, Heidi was able to get a CDBG grant for the housing rehab with the help of Steve Wendt from Nyakog. Most of these items, well, the first however many, are all in conjunction with that grant. Most of these are, it's just policies and paperwork that we have to have in place for this grant. So Steve Wendt has prepared all of it and sent it over for council approval. I think Heidi did a summary, a pretty good summary that highlighted everything and kind of let you know. So
We make out pretty good on this. We have a $6,000 cash match from the city, and because Heidi's ability to help administer and be part of the grant process, that's $7,800 there of in kind. So that's, we saved there too, and we're going to get about, should be 6 homes rehabbed out of this $232,000 award. So fantastic program. That's what we really benefited from in the community.
So move.
Second.
So, motion second for Resolution 140-18. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Next is a motion which is approving the alternate signature for the 2018 housing rehab grant. Any discussion on this one?
And this, again, is just to have another person able to sign it in case the mayor is gone. And I think she had me on there, I believe.
On another
So,
junket.
yeah. Yeah, in case he goes traveling again. So there again, this is just one of those paperwork that we have to have on file, so.
I would so move, Your Honor.
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is a motion which is approving residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan for the, again, this housing rehab grant of 2018. Have any
So move.
discussion on this one, or while we have motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on this one? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Next is Resolution 141-18, which is approving an equal opportunity policy for the 2018 Housing Rehab Grant.
We need to have it, so I move.
I would second.
Don't we already have a policy like that in place? Why do we have to have this?
It was an old one, and I think they did make some changes on some of the requirements that you have to
I mean, don't we
fulfill.
already have an equal employment policy and things like that?
Well,
It's just
this
part of our
is-
city.
This is just for the housing. This is an equal opportunity thing, and I think it's a little different, Delane, I think, but yeah.
We do, but you know,
Yeah.
every one of these steps is all specific things that the federal grant requires, and so it's, every time we get funding for this, we have to update and approve their specific policies and requirements.
And some of the paperwork was still good from the old grant, but there had been a few changes made that required some changes to things like this. that-
Just like doing an FHA loan, no matter how many times you've done the policies, it requires a new one in every single transaction.
Yeah, so.
All right, do we have a motion on
We
this
did.
one?
We had a
Yes.
motion and a second. We did.
All right, well, clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
The next one is a Resolution 142-18, approving a procurement policy for the 2018 Housing Rehab Grant. Any discussion on this one?
What
Go
what
ahead,
is the
Jerry.
procurement policy?
It's just a purchasing policy. It's how you go about making your purchases, basically. It's the guidelines that you use
Kind of
for
sets the
that.
levels, like they have anything below $3,000 is
Yep.
a micro expense, and there's
Making it all legit.
Mhm.
So move.
Yep.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
I feel like we're doing a new mortgage on a house.
Yeah.
That'd be easier.
Yeah.
I guess to me, what I worry about is that this runs afoul of our regular procurement policy, or gets us in a bind somewhere there. But we obviously don't have any choice in the matter, so.
And if it reaches the level of public bidding requirement, we would still have to follow those steps in the same manner.
Well, I think I mean, that's why it has a top cutoff is 150,000. That's typically our vertical infrastructure closed bid
Mhm.
cutoff. But this one has more leniency on the bottom end with that 3,000. Actually less. It's more restrictive than what ours is, because I have 5,000 up to,
Yeah.
10,000.
You have
That's what I mean,
10,000.
it gets into conflict with what we normally do, but.
Once again, we have
Yep.
motion on this one.
That was all voted on, so.
Okay. So we're ready to go to G. Motion.
F. Are we
I think it's
How about
F.
F?
F? Code of conduct.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about procurement, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we're at 143-18, approving the code of conduct for the 2018 Housing Rehab Grant. Any discussion on this one?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Next is consideration of a motion which is approving the affirmative fair housing policy for the 2018 housing rehab grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
All right, well, then we need a motion approving the certification of compliance for the 2018 housing rehab grant. Any discussion on this one?
I would so move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
All right, well, thanks for your consideration on all those housing rehab grant.
I think we ought to
Motions.
be able to send a bill to the federal government for all the paperwork involved in this
It really is, but there were
routine
quite
stuff.
a few of them that were still good, so this could have been a lot longer. So we
Really?
just had to change a few of them. So this could have been worse.
Okay,
That helps.
answer my thought.
The good thing is we're getting something out of this program that's going to be a benefit to the community, so.
Well, that's true.
All right, so moving on to another topic, we'll have Resolution 14418, which is approving submittal of an application for a federal recreational trails project grant. Discussion on this one.
Yep, this is our third out of 4 grants that we're working on this fall for the Charlie Western Trail. This is the federal rec trail grant, and so this will be the council's resolution approving and authorizing application for this grant. This grant will fund up to $400,000 towards the project, so it's the biggest grant of the ones we're looking at. It's probably one of the more competitive ones, so we are applying for 400. You know, what will be awarded is anybody's guess, but it does require a 25% match. We will have every bit of $100,000 on a local level and quite a bit more when it comes to ultimately funding this project. So we have no problem meeting that 25% threshold. So I recommend approval of this resolution.
So move.
Second.
Any further questions?
I have a question on it.
Go ahead, Keith.
This says it's passed and approved the 5th day of September. Does it need to match up with our meeting date?
It should. Which resolution is that, 144?
That's the grant.
14418,
At the very end there.
attachment G.
I will make a note here, and I will make that change, Keith.
Appreciate that.
You betcha. Thank you for bringing it up.
Any other comments? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Could and should mention that it does come with the city being required to maintain the bridge for 20 years, which I think we have every intention
Yeah.
of doing.
Holes in.
Mentioned that in my notes, but I didn't say that in the meeting.
Well, I think if we look at a standard trail, you know, that I think, you know, they might assume that some you know, through the woods area that they don't want it to just fall apart, whereas this one will more than adequately be maintained.
Let's hope so.
Well, hopefully this will get us one step closer to getting the bridge back in place in, what, 2020?
2020.
Goal. All right, next is consideration of Resolution 14518, which is approving the purchase of a replacement engine for the fire truck. Discussion here.
Yeah, so we talked about this at our last council workshop, how we had the one of the fire engines motor failed and the cylinder dropped and allowed antifreeze into the engine, which effectively ruined the engine. We talked about there being 2 replacement options, one being a rebuilt motor, rebuilding our existing motor for the price tag attached, which is $19,027.99, or we could look to get a remanufactured motor, which is $27,422.15. The difference between the two, aside from the price difference, is the remanufactured is a motor that's already been rebuilt by the Cummins factory to spec, to specs, which they say are even higher quality specs than what the motor was originally built at. That has about a 2-week lead time and can get done pretty much immediately. The other option the cheaper option is a 6 to 8 week lead time. That gives you a product that is potentially less reliable. With this truck, it's 15 years old. We expect it to live 30 years or be in service 30 years. So, with that being the case, and the need to have that truck back in service as soon as possible, we're recommending going with the remanufactured motor for the $27,422.15.
That's so move.
Second.
Any further questions or comments on the?
And it has been determined there was this fault, or the failure of this engine has really been no fault in our maintenance. It was just one of those things that happened.
It's one of those things that happens, and there's nothing that points to it being a service issue. But that being said, we're going to be reviewing the practice and making sure things are done to the standard that it should be.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Next is Resolution 146-18, allowing city administrator to live within 2 miles of the city limits. Discussion here.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit before. We come to an agreement to purchase a home, and we've accepted an offer on our current home. The place that we've purchased is just under a mile outside of the city limits, technically. And so, as per my contract, the council has to grant permission for me to be able to reside at that place. So I would greatly appreciate it if the council would approve this resolution.
I guess I just wanted to ask, was anybody able to open the attachment that way?
No.
If you open it in WordPad and scroll past all the wingdings, it comes up.
Couldn't open it. I mean,
I just tried to open it. Yeah, it kicked up Word. Comes open as a Word document.
Yeah,
Did
it's
you
a,
scan that, and how did you do that?
and if you scroll past that, it comes up.
You know?
Ginny uploaded them, so I
Oh,
don't know.
okay.
Yeah, they're
I'll
not a
have to ask her.
PDF.
It's a Word document, so it's different than the others. So
Okay, I'll have to ask her. Maybe I'll have to look at that process and see how she did that.
I was thinking more in a half-mile situation would be good, but I'll move for the 2 mile.
Second.
You seconded that, Delane?
Yep.
Okay.
any further discussion?
Well, this came up, it wasn't simply a, hey, let's be outside city limits. It's kind of a unique situation where we're in a small enough community where we don't necessarily have the available property to accommodate, this situation. And so, it's my belief that Steve made every effort to try and find something locally. In fact, I know I passed several along to him. It just, size-wise, it just wasn't a good fit, and sometimes that, this decision has to be made, and it's not like he's, 10 miles outside the city limits. He's just outside, and maybe potentially the city will just expand so greatly that it'll be downtown in the next 20 years. Who knows?
yeah, we've been looking for a couple years, that's for sure. And we need to stop having kids, and then we'll be better. So, which I think we've achieved that.
And this goes right along with our housing needs assessment that we are in the process of doing to address the housing needs in our community, because we've, like Mike says, there has been, some people have problems getting housing and end up moving to other communities to look for housing, so we're glad you didn't move to another community, I guess.
Glad to.
And this also has some precedent that former city administrator Don Lorson also lived outside the city limits. At that time, we passed a similar resolution to allow that, so.
I greatly appreciate it.
further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
So now Steve will be looking for people to help him move, so.
And that should be
Not
the
it.
next, that should be the next
Is that the
item.
next item
Yeah,
on the
it
agenda?
should be.
It's not on the agenda, we can't
Maybe we can put our
discuss it.
fingers where our noses and
Not it, right? Not it.
Next, consideration of Resolution 14718, approving a 28E agreement with Floyd County for the collection of parking tickets. Discussion on this one.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit before. We're trying to come up with an effective way to collect on past due parking tickets that we have trouble collecting on. They're small amounts, typically $15 up to $20 max. And so what we've done is we've reached out to the county to set up an agreement with them that other communities and counties are doing to collect that fine when it comes time to renew someone's tags on their vehicle. And so this agreement, Brad drafted it. He worked with the county attorney on it. They replied back with just some very minor changes and not really substantive at all. And so with that, we'd like to approve the agreement so we can get that put in place. I think by this December is kind of the goal. County still has to take this up and look at it, but they've initially kind of signed off on it. So once they approve it, assuming the council wants to approve tonight, then we'd be set to go once they approve. We will pay them $5 for every collection they make. So, we will get on a $15 fine, $5 penalty. It's $20. We lose the late fee, but we collect on something that's been historically difficult to collect on. So it should be a good partnership.
Any idea of how many dollars of fines we've had out there last few years, Brad?
I thought Hughes estimated there was, I want to say somewhere between 100 and 125 unpaid tickets right now, and obviously that increases each year.
Sure.
We looked at a couple different alternatives and thought this was the best one, but if this is not successful, there are other routes we could potentially pursue, but this involved, I guess, the least administrative work on the city's end.
I'd so move.
second.
Any further discussion on this one?
You know anybody else that's done this?
There's quite a few
Okay.
communities.
That's all I wanna know.
I believe the majority of the Polk County communities have agreements with Polk County, so I know Des Moines and Ankeny, Urbandale, and there's also a number of smaller communities that have done similar agreements. So.
Buchanan County and Independence, I can tell you.
Any further discussion? Questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Resolution 14718 is passed. Any miscellaneous correspondence tonight?
None, Your Honor.
Brad, any attorney's report for tonight?
No, Your Honor.
City clerk's report.
The next planning session, I hope you all remember, we switched it to Monday the 10th due to the league conference going on the 12th. So next week, we will meet on Monday, not Wednesday. And I think that's it.
City administrator's report.
Yeah, just a couple things. As many of you may know, the river is expected to flood here a little bit come Thursday. We've been keeping a close eye on that. We're looking at a flood crest right now of 14 foot 6 inches, which is 2.5 feet over flood stage. Still at that point, it doesn't have a major impact for us anymore. Brackett Street down by Sportsman's Park, Leland down by the community gardens and Riverfront Park, you'll see some flooding. But otherwise, we should be in pretty good shape if this holds consistent. It'll be interesting to see what happens down in Illinois and Riverside, where we've redone that. Unfortunately, it'd be nice if we were done with it before the flood came in and started monkeying around. But that should be improved down there. So just keep your eyes out for that. We're going to be putting on regular updates on city Facebook page. So stay tuned for that as that develops. Number 2, just some updates on the wastewater treatment plant property acquisition process. I've shared a correspondence there with you. Fiber to the home meeting, we had our last commission meeting last Friday, and good discussion, although it was pretty rather brief. We want to delve more into it and get into further detail with all parties involved this coming September 11th at 6 o'clock. So we're going to be meeting from 6 o'clock probably till about 8 to really have a good in-depth discussion on that and moving forward. So, but everybody's very enthusiastic about the project. We're just working to figure out how to get it done and how to make that happen. So we'll be meeting there soon. Main Street visit this Friday. We've got Main Street Iowa's coming to town to visit. They're going to be meeting with area community folks as well as us from the City Hall at a certain point during the day. So we'll be having that coming this week. And lastly, I just want to mention our comprehensive plan. I sent the draft out to our plan participants. So Mike, I know you're on the plan committee, Mayor. I've sent those out. If you have any thoughts or comments on that, I'm getting some comments back from the other entities involved. September 11th as well. Going to have that due back to Myrtle so she can take those suggested corrections, changes, and whatnot, and get our final plan put together that we can then present to Planning and Zoning. Planning and Zoning will review it, ultimately make their recommendation, and then it'll come before the City Council for final approval. So this October, November, we might actually have a completed comprehensive plan.
Woohoo! Do we need to have a public hearing on that, Steve? Do you know?
Yes.
That's what I was wondering. I thought we did.
Yeah, we might have to have a couple.
Yeah, P&Z probably us and us.
So that's all I have, Mayor.
Any board or commissioner committee reports tonight?
Yes, the Hotel Motel Tax Steering Committee met, was that a couple weeks ago now? We're getting pushed on that. We awarded $2,500 to PAWS. They are looking at doing a new fundraising campaign, kind of kick off a new style to get more money. So we're looking at seeing what they can bring to the event, and it should be interesting.
You know, and I just mentioned on the landfill, we are getting well into the way of establishing our third cell. It's a $1 million project, and they've been going very well. The last couple weeks have been pretty wet, so it's been kind of delayed a little bit, but we've been meeting monthly or weekly with the engineers, and they're very satisfied with the work that's being done. Hopefully it'll be completed by November sometime.
Thank you. Any other reports?
I think our new librarian starts tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, I met her
Actually,
today. She
Monday.
was in to get the paperwork done.
Is she? Okay, cool.
New librarian.
What is her name?
Annette
It is Annette
D.
Marion, the librarian.
Very nice young lady.
Good. Good. With that, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.
It's all over.
My favorite 2 words in the world, meeting
Well, I like
adjourned.
about Andy Siri was always really excited about adjournment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that
Power
going?
plant.
City Council.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Well,
Doesn't
that's the
matter
pretty
where.